Alright, this would be note review 4. I can make a note of that. Note review 4. A number of things here are things that we already talked about. We talked about binary code already. We talked about this code, and then we have these extensions that represent particular types of files, like image files, movies, so forth. We've got numbers and different things here. A file can be data, or it could be a program to process the data, instructions. So we could have a word processing doc that was created using a word processing software like Microsoft Word. Software, a little review here, two different parts. You either have an application or you have system software. The application creates data files or manipulates data files. The system software works with the hardware. So this is a very good diagram. You have the hardware here, which we talked about before. You got the PC and the hard drive, and information moves between those two up to the monitor, in from a keyboard. You can get information off on a DVD. Excuse me. So this hardware is always managed by some type of system software. The one that we're talking about here is the operating system, like Windows 7. You have the iOS in the iPhones. You have OS 10, I believe, or wherever they're at on the Macintosh computers, and so forth. Linux on the open source end of things. The operating system communicates with the hardware. And then we have this application that's written to communicate with the operating system. So you can buy an application that maybe works on your Android phone, but you would have to have a different application, maybe doing the same thing, but designed to work with the iOS on an iPhone. And then working with the application are the users. And what we want to do is not only be users, but eventually be a little bit of an expert when you get down to class. A little bit of review here. We're talking about local area network, the LAN, local area network, same geographical area. Here I'm reviewing like an 80 gig storage area you might be working with. We have storage and memory on your devices, like your phones, your smartphones, maybe an iPad or some other type of tablet. They will just list the memory and storage together. For example, my tablet that I'm working here is a 32 gig machine, and it uses the memory and storage combined. It's flash in the device. The device can go through some type of media and connect out to a network, which then allows us to communicate either to the internet or maybe to some servers on the local network. How does it do it? Well, a lot of networks are connected by wire, or you may have a device connected by air. One example of air would be Wi-Fi, radio frequencies, or in some cases we have connections by fiber. For example, at the college, this connection here from this router to this one before we go out to the internet is a fiber line. Same picture except you get the full picture. Now what we want to explain here briefly is this maybe represents the internet, okay? And you can create a virtual private network, a VPN, and communicate through the internet. This is becoming extremely popular. We watched a video today that talks about some of the dangers of that, but that can be done. I'm doing an example of here's Charles City and the college communicates to Charles City. Or you can pay a service provider and go through their cloud to do the same thing, and you pay them based probably partially on the bandwidth, how much space you need, how many bits per second, how big we need this connection between here, and then you can pay a service provider to have your own connection. That, excuse me, that could be, alright, I might have not gotten this recorded, so I'll repeat it here in hopes it's not recorded twice. I'll just use red. This was a review, bits and bytes. We talked about it here. Talked about the different file types, extensions that represent that, applications, manipulate those things, the system software talks to the hardware, and we have the diagram up here. And then the last page for this one, it's a review, but we have the hardware. In here, the operating system communicates to hardware, the application communicates with the operating system, and humans communicate with applications. Processor does the work. We bring the application in to memory, so we have the instructions in memory. The instructions are sent to the processor. It processes the instructions, sends it back. And then if we manipulate some data in here, we can store the data back on the hard drive. And then the last part here, we have, I started talking about word processing, manage text and images together in order to make something that says what we want to say, and then it looks the way we want it to look. Either pleasing or easy to read or hard to read, depending on what you're trying to accomplish. So we enter text, we can manipulate the text. By the way, that stands for carriage return. The old typewriters, you'd push a carriage return. That would be like pressing the enter key. And we talked a little bit about word processing and did some demos. And that is it for this one.